A very warm welcome, dear student. In today's session, we are going to discuss one very important section, Corporate Social Responsibility, section 135. This is one section in which maximum students have doubts. So if you have doubts in this section, watch this video till the end to gain concept clarity. If you're watching my video for the first time, I am CA Preeti Agarwal and I make videos specially for you. Do subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications for all the videos. Also, visit my website capreetiagarwal.com for books, lectures, podcasts, and revision sessions. So students, we are going to discuss the entire concept by preparing revision notes. Now, what is the advantage of writing these notes in your own handwriting? The first thing is that you have written, so you have already, given signal to your mind to remember those points. So by writing, you will be able to remember the keywords, the key provisions, etc. These are not only your notes, but they will also help you during revision, regular revision, and also 1.5 days before the exam. So please watch this video till the end, and also I would advise you to write these notes along with me. Okay, so you can bring a paper, your notebook and a pencil or a pen with you. Go on writing the notes along with me. Prepare these last minute revision notes so that they help you during exam time. Now, what is corporate social responsibility? See, the companies, they utilize the resources, they utilize labor, material of the society. They also manufacture goods and create pollution in the society. So we want the companies to feel responsible towards the society. We want them to give something back to the society. So see, there is a give and take relation, right? Whenever you utilize the resources, the raw material, the labor, you create pollution. If you're taking so much from the society, we also want you to give back to the society. We want you to feel responsible. Now, if this corporate social responsibility is given as a voluntary option, like companies, you decide whether you want to go for CSR or not. No company will want to spend their hard earned profit on giving something back to the society, doing activities for the society. So we have made it mandatory, but is it compulsory for all the companies? No, it's not mandatory for all the companies. Only when you meet the criteria specified in this section, CSR will apply, and subsequently you will also have to formulate a CSR committee. But it is not applicable to all the companies. So these small companies or private companies who are not covered in these criteria, they need not worry about spending their hard-earned profit on social activities. But yes, if you satisfy the criteria mentioned in the section, then you will have to spend a certain percentage of your profit in doing activities which contribute to the society. So let's start making notes. Okay, the first thing is, why CSR? Why are the companies required to do something for the society? So my first question is, why CSR? So in case a question is asked in the exam, you will not just start by writing the provisions of CSR. Give a small introduction as to why corporate social responsibility or why CSR activities are required. So what are our pointers? See, we are making revision notes. So you're not going to write everything in detail. For that, we have our main notes. This is all in short. So the companies utilize resources belonging to the society. So if you're utilizing the sources of the society, you're utilizing the resources like labor, raw material, you're creating pollution, don't you think it is time to give something back to the society? Now, how do we convince these companies to carry on CSR activities? So we tell these companies that, look, if you do something for the society will appreciate you. This will create your brand image. Okay, so this increases brand image. It also increases the trust which people have on you. Now see, if you do something for the society, they will not know. Many of them don't even know that CSR exists. You are covering these activities under CSR. Now you, let's say for example, organize some cultural event, or you organize some blood donation drive or eye testing for people, and you do it on a mass scale. You build hospitals, you adopt a village, you build schools, you give sanitation facility, you install solar panels, you ensure that there is solar electricity. So if you're doing something for the society, they don't know that this is a compulsion and you're doing under section 135, that you and I are aware. But there are so many people who are not aware that the companies are doing this out of an obligation. What they will feel that the company is doing it because they feel responsible. They are doing it for the public. They are doing it for the society. The brand image improves. The profitability will improve. People will start trusting the brand. Automatically, the sales will increase. Profit will increase. And it is a win-win situation for both. So these are primarily the reasons for carrying out CSR. So this is how we convince the companies also to initiate CSR activities. Now let us discuss about applicability. Is it applicable to all the companies? No. Corporate social responsibility is not applicable to all the companies. So section 135, subsection 1. It specifies the companies to which CSR apply. So companies which fulfill any of the following conditions. So let me write the heading over here. Companies that fulfill any, okay, any of the following criteria. Okay, you can call them limits, conditions, etc. So the first requirement is that the net profit is more than or equal to rupees 5 crores. Okay. So if your net profit, now what net profit are we talking about? All the parameters that we have, like net profit, net worth, turnover, all these parameters, okay, criteria, or you can say parameters. So all these parameters are to be checked of the immediately preceding financial year. Okay, so criteria, or you can also write parameters. So if your net profit is more than or equal to rupees 5 crore, now what net profit will we consider? We will consider the net profit before tax. Okay, so in the exam maybe you will be given net profit before tax, and or you may be given to calculate the net profit, so you will consider the net profit before tax. Now in this net profit we will exclude the profits earned from overseas branches. See, why are you made to do CSR? Because you're utilizing the resources of the Indian society, because you're creating pollution in our Indian society. But what if the profit is earned outside India? It is earned in some overseas branches. Anyways, though that profit is not earned using the Indian resources. So that profit will not be used and it will not be spent on CSR activities. You will also exclude the dividend received from companies covered under section 135. Now, let's say for example, I am company A. I can purchase shares of any other company because we have to separate person in the eyes of law. So company A has purchased the shares of company B. Now company B is covered under 135. It means CSR applies. So they have already utilized certain percentage of their profit in carrying out these CSR activities. They have spent money on CSR, and then after that whatever remains is distributed among the members. So company B then gives the dividend to company A. Now the dividend which company A has received is a dividend out of a profit from which we have already spent money on CSR. Now, if you expect company A to include this dividend in the profit and also spend money on CSR, it means that the company B has already spent money on CSR and then given this dividend. Now you are expecting company A to utilize this dividend, consider it as profit, and utilize that money for CSR expenditure, for CSR spending. We cannot allow double spending. So in this case, if the company B has already spent money on CSR activities, then they are declaring dividend. So this dividend will not be included in our profit for CSR. Okay, so if my net profit is more than or equal to 5 crores, or my net worth is more than or equal to 500 crores. See, it is directly a multiple. That is why remember it in this sequence. So net profit, then go to net worth, and then go to turnover. So your net worth, if it is more than or equal to 500 crore rupees, then yes, you may be covered, you are covered under CSR. So these are alternatives. So either net profit or net worth or turnover. Now, while calculating the net worth, you will consider the paid up share capital. To this, you will add reserves, you will reduce accumulated losses, you will reduce deferred expenditure or miscellaneous expenses to the extent not written off. In these reserves, I will consider my profit and loss account, securities premium, and free reserves. Free reserves are those reserves which can be utilized for declaration of dividend. That is how free reserves are defined. So I will include my profit and loss account. Whatever surplus is lying in the profit and loss account, I will utilize securities premium and free reserves, but I will not consider, okay, I will not include revaluation reserve. Now, why is revaluation reserve to be excluded? See, let's say, for example, the land is valued at rupees 50 lakhs, but the current value of land is 5 crore rupees. Now, there is a revaluation profit of 4.5 crore rupees. But is this actual profit? Is this realized profit? Have I earned that profit? No, I will realize that profit only when I sell the land. I have not sold the land. So this does not represent actual profit. If it is not actual profit, I cannot spend it. That is why I cannot utilize that for CSR. Therefore, net worth will not include your revaluation reserve, because that reserve cannot be spent. Okay, if you have realized that reserve, then yes, you can use it for spending. But unless and until you do that, that revaluation reserve will not be included while calculating net worth. So net worth should be more than or equal to 500 crores. So your paid up share capital, you will add reserves to that. You will reduce the accumulated losses, deferred expenses, miscellaneous expenses to the extent not written off, and whatever amount you get, if it is more than or equal to 500 crore rupees, then you will be covered under CSR. CSR applies. The third requirement is that the turnover should be more than or equal to 1,000 crore, just a double of the net worth. So this is how you will remember the limits. So if your net profit is more than or equal to 500 crores, or your net worth is more than or equal to, it is more than or equal to 5 crores, net worth is more than or equal to 500 crores, and your turnover is more than or equal to 1,000 crores during the immediately preceding financial year. Okay, so during the immediately preceding financial year, then CSR apply. Now these limits are to be checked every year. Okay, limits to be checked every year. So can I say that because I need to check the previous year's parameters or the limits, the CSR will not apply in the first year of operations or the first year of incorporation. It will apply from the subsequent years. Okay, so these limits are to be checked every year. Now pay attention, students. Let's say this is year 1, year 2, and year 3. So in year 2, I will check whether I'm covered under CSR or not by checking the limits or the parameters of the previous financial year, that is year 1. So if I am meeting any of these criteria, my net profit, net worth, or turnover is exceeding this limit, then CSR spending will be done in year 2. In year 3, okay, in year 3, I will check whether I am meeting the parameters, and I will check the limits of year 2. In year 2, is my turnover or net worth or net profit crossing these limits? If yes, then the spending will be done in year 3. So whether I need to spend in this particular year or not depends whether I am meeting the parameters in the immediately preceding financial year. If I am not meeting the parameters, then I am not covered under CSR. That for that year, CSR spending is not required. See, now the first thing that I need to do is identify whether CSR is applicable to me or not. If I am covered under CSR, then I need to know how much I need to spend on CSR. See, we are going in a very logical flow, in a very logical manner. If I am covered under CSR. Now my next question is, how much do I need to spend? So in every financial year, spend at least 2% of average net profit of immediately preceding 3 financial years. So what I will do is I will calculate the average net profit of immediately preceding 3 financial year, calculate 2% on that, and that will be my actual spending. What if in a particular year there is excess spending? Earlier that was considered to be voluntary spending, but now you will get the benefit of set off in the immediately, or you can say up to immediately succeeding 3 financial years. So in this case, this excess spending is allowed to be set off up to 3 immediately three succeeding financial years. So I can set off in immediately three succeeding financial years. Okay, so in this case, if there is some excess spending, I will get the benefit of that excess spending in the subsequent years. Now let's say, for example, in year 1, my CSR obligation was 2 crore rupees, but I actually spent, okay, actual spending was 3 crore rupees. It means 1 crore rupees was spent in excess. Now this can be claimed for up to 3 succeeding financial years. So let's say in year 2, okay, I had to spend, let's say, 3 crore rupees. So I will get a set off of 1 crore, and if I don't want to take a set off of 1 crore, I can, or maybe my obligation is less than 1 crore rupees, I can claim the set off in the next 3 succeeding financial years. So here I can claim a set off, and now I need to spend only 2 crore rupees. But what if there is short spending? I have spent less than my obligation. Now in this case, what if there is less spending, or there is short spending? There is either less or short spending. Now let's say, for example, my CSR obligation was 3 crore rupees, but I spent only 2.5 crore rupees. The 50 lakhs, that is my short spending, will be transferred to a fund which is created under schedule 7 within 6 months from the end of the financial year. Okay, so this short spending will be transferred within 6 months from end of financial year to a fund specified in schedule 7. Now what is given in schedule 7? Schedule 7 provides a list of activities or broader areas in which the companies can perform CSR activities, like, say, for example, women empowerment, protection of flora, fauna, eradication of hunger. Now we have given you a broader area. You decide what kind of activity you want to do in that area. Like, for example, I want to go for women empowerment. So I organize short courses every 3 months, like a beautician course or a stitching course, to empower women, to make them independent. For protection of flora and fauna, I have teams which go for tree plantation, or we have adopted a village wherein we ensure that their trees are planted. Or in cities like Mumbai, we have roads which we have, taken charge of. Like, you go to Vikhroli, you will find that this road is maintained by Godrej. So these companies, they ensure that proper trees are planted, they are maintained, and proper cutting takes place. So we are trying to create a natural, healthy environment. We are trying to protect trees. So you have those pink flowers, which bloom in a particular season. Like, I think it's in the summer season, and you have the roads which are full of pink flowers. So that is because the companies are taking effort to maintain that. Okay, so broader areas of spending are given in schedule 7. If your maybe CSR committee or your board of director is formulating a CSR policy, then that CSR policy may include activities which you want to undertake, but that should also be within the areas specified in CSR. Okay. So if there is a short spending, now in case of an ongoing project, that is, we are going to discuss about that later. In case of an ongoing project, you need not transfer it to a fund under schedule 7. In case of an ongoing project, the provisions are slightly different. Okay, so we are going to study that separately. This is about normal projects which are not ongoing. There are separate provisions. Separate requirement for ongoing project. Okay, now, so this is the spending that I need to know. So now I know whether I'm covered or not, whether, whether it applies to me or not. And if it does, if that CSR applies, so how much I need to spend. Now the next question arises, that is, where do I need to conduct the CSR activity? So what are the areas? See, you have to give preference to the place of business, or you have to give preference to the local areas, or the area where you're not, wherein you have your principal place of operation. Now you're utilizing the resources of that area, you're creating pollution in that area, so you will have to conduct your CSR activities also in that area. Let's say, for example, that my factory is in Gujarat. Okay, my factory is in Gujarat. If I am utilizing the resources of that state, if I am utilizing the labor, I'm creating pollution in that area, I will give preference to local areas, also the areas of my operations. So where CSR, give preference. Now this is very important for from exam point of view. Give preference to local areas. Okay, plus areas of operation. How will I know what are the areas where I need to spend? That will be given in the activities specified in schedule 7. So refer the activities of schedule 7. It will guide you as to where you can spend the money. Can I go abroad and spend money in tree plantation? Because it is very organized, no, over there. No. Are you utilizing their resources? Are you creating pollution over there? Are you, spending, or what should I say, utilizing the labor of that area? No. If your main activity is in India, of course CSR will have to be in India, benefit the people in India, no? So in this case, you can write expenses should be incurred in India, not outside India. Expenses on CSR outside India will not qualify as CSR spending. Okay, so that is not CSR spending. You have to spend the money in India. The only exception which lies, so you can write over here, there is only one exception in case of sports. That too at the national or international level. Now, in India, not at, I would not say less importance, I would say no importance is given to sports. Like even our parents will tell, acha, you are playing a sport, that's fine, but complete your studies. More importance is given to studies. Like sports is extracurricular. You cannot make a career in sports. That is our mindset. So maybe in India, you don't have proper training facilities, you don't have proper coaches, you don't have proper place where you can go and train. You are not financially that strong that you can afford, or there is a particular diet which these sports persons need to follow. I don't have money or I don't have resources to follow that diet. So in case a company is sponsoring such a sports person, sending them outside India for training, and they are ready to bear the expenses of training, travel, stay, diet, everything the company is ready to bear, then that money which you have spent, although it is spent outside India, but it is for the training of those sports personnel who are representing India at international level, or they are either representing your state or union territory, then money which is spent on the training of those sports personnel will also be considered as CSR. Ma'am, I spent money on training. I sent the college football team outside India for training. I'm showing that I'm spending money for their training, for their diet, for their stay, etc. Will that also qualify as CSR? No. They have clearly mentioned that if you're representing your state or union territory, or you're representing India at international level, only that expenditure will qualify as CSR, even though it is incurred outside India. All right. Now, how will I know where I need to spend? So see, you can spend on the activities specified in Schedule 7. Acha, I have a CSR committee. They have formulated the CSR policy which is approved by the board of directors. Can I follow that policy? Yes, of course you can follow that policy, but in that policy also the broader areas will be the ones covered under Schedule 7. So you can undertake, or you can undertake activities specified in Schedule 7 or undertaken by the board as per the CSR policy of the company. Now, who makes this CSR policy? Let's discuss it later. I have a small note for that also, so we will discuss that later. Okay. So where CSR we understood, for whom, for whose benefit. Okay, so for whom or for whose benefit CSR. Now, CSR should be for the benefit of the general public. It should be for the general society, for all of them. I should not target only a particular section of people. Okay, so it should be for benefit of society, that is all. Ma'am, what if I am conducting certain activities which will benefit my employees or their families? Will that be considered as CSR? See, they are also part of the general society. No, that is not said. You're just targeting your employees or their families. That will not be considered as CSR. So any activity that benefits employees or only employees or their family will not be considered as CSR. So let's say that I conducted a COVID vaccination drive only for my employees and their families. That is not CSR. But what if in that drive, not only the employees or their families, but outsiders were also welcome. Even they could come and get vaccination for free. Then that will be considered as CSR. So only benefiting the employees, that is not CSR. See, now I need to know that I have to spend money. So I went to a political party and I told them that, see, you know the areas of spending. I don't know who requires money. I don't know who are the weaker sections of the society. You know which area requires money. So I will give you 2 crore rupees. You spend it on CSR. That will not be considered as valid CSR spending. So any contribution to a political party will not be considered as CSR. So money given to a political party so that they can conduct CSR, that will not be counted as valid CSR spending. Okay. Otherwise, what will happen? The political parties will take money under the guise of CSR and say, they have contributed for CSR and not utilize that money for CSR. So we don't want that. Okay, we don't want the companies to do that. So any money given will not be considered to a political party, will not be considered. All right. Also, the amount spent on normal, in the normal course of business, that will not be considered as CSR. So that is your normal course of business. Now let's say that I am a research organization. I have a laboratory and I research various vaccines like flu, or say some new virus. So we are into research and development. Now, during COVID, that is my job to research new vaccines. If I am the first one to bring the vaccine, I will get more profit. So during COVID, I started researching for COVID vaccine. Ideally, that is something which is in the normal course of business. Ideally, it should not be CSR, but because it was such an exceptional circumstance, that even though it was your normal business activity, that spending on researching COVID vaccine was considered as CSR. Okay, so it should not be a normal business activity. Now let's say, for example, I'm into the business of manufacturing paper, or I'm into the business which requires wood, furniture. So I plant trees, the trees grow, then I use those trees, the logs, to manufacture paper, or to manufacture furniture, or I use bamboos for that's in my normal course of business. You cannot say I planted trees, that is CSR. That is in the normal course of business. You require trees, you require a particular kind of tree, you will have to grow it. That is not considered as CSR activity. It is in the normal course of your business. Also, activities where the amount is spent for fulfillment of your statutory obligation, that is not CSR. Activities for fulfillment of statutory obligations will not be considered as CSR. Now, are you aware that in Kanpur there are many tanneries? Okay, and tanneries is place where leather is made. It requires a lot of water, and there is a lot of pollution which is created. All that water goes into the river Ganga. Now we have requested these tanneries, or sometimes made it mandatory, that no, you will have to treat the water before you put it in the rivers. Now, you cannot say, I am treating water, I have a water treating plant. That is CSR. That is your statutory obligation. That activity will not be considered as CSR. Also, the money spent on sponsorship basis for marketing, or which gives you the benefit of increasing the sales of your product or services, that is not considered as CSR. One time activity, like I gave some money in charity, I gave 5 lakh in charity, that is not CSR. We require you to be engaged in programs or projects to qualify as CSR spending. I sponsored the marathon this time. That's just a one time activity, that will not be considered as CSR. So any amount spent on sponsorship basis just to increase the sale of your product or services, or you're advertising your services, okay, these are marketing benefits. Okay, these are marketing benefits, marketing activities, that will not be considered as CSR. One time activity, one off activities, that is not CSR. You need to engage in projects or programs to qualify as CSR. So this is how you need to spend CSR. Like, there are so many other activities also. Money spent on Har Ghar Tiranga will be considered as CSR activity. We are going to read all that. Now I know where the CSR is to be spent. How do I plan the spending? How CSR? Okay, how will I carry out the CSR activities? Let's say, for example, that on my board of directors, I have 9 directors. Okay, this is my board. I have 9 directors. All 9 directors are expected to participate in all the activities. Is it possible? No. So what I do is, from all the directors, I make small committees. Okay, so let's say that I have made 4 committees. This is my CSR committee. This is my nomination and remuneration committee. They recommend the board of the director who can be appointed on the board, their remuneration, etc. This is the audit committee. This is the corporate governance committee. Okay, so like this, I will make small committees from the board of directors, and the CSR will be done through the CSR committee. In my CSR committee, I need at least 3 directors, out of whom at least one, at least one must be an independent director. But I don't have any independent director. I'm not obligated to appoint independent director. See, independent director will be appointed only by listed company and certain unlisted public companies. I am not required to appoint independent director. Then it must consist of at least two directors. Okay, at least two directors. But I have only two directors in the company. I am a private company having only two directors. Then these two directors will be a part of the CSR committee. So yes, CSR committee is important. Questions are asked. What if my CSR spending for the year is less than 50 lakh rupees? Okay, it is less than 50 lakh rupees. Then I need not constitute CSR committee. Then what will happen? See, in that case, if there is no CSR committee, the functions shall be performed by the board. What is the work of CSR committee? See, CSR committee will prepare and recommend. Okay, they will only recommend the CSR policy to the board. The board will then approve the CSR policy, and that CSR policy will be adopted by the company. The company will perform the activities which are mentioned in that CSR policy. Okay. Now, there is something which is worth noting at this stage. Let's say that my turnover is 1500 crore rupees. This year, not this year, sorry, last year. Because I see the parameters of the previous financial year. The turnover is 1500 crores, but there is net loss. Because I am satisfying the turnover criteria, which has to be more than 1000 crore rupees, you are expecting me to carry out CSR activities. Why? Because I am meeting one criteria, but I have loss. Don't you think that this is quite unfair on the part of the company? Or it is, it is unfair on the company to expect that company to perform, to spend money on CSR activities, even although it is meeting one criteria, but there is loss. How can you expect the company to carry on CSR activities? There is net loss. So what we say is, see, yes, you have a turnover of 1500 crores. You're not able to even manage the company to earn profit. What did you do with this 1500 crore rupees of turnover? Where did all that go? It means your company is mismanaged. That is why you have incurred loss. And we are not asking you to spend money from this figure. We are asking you to spend a 2% on an average of the net profit of the last 3 years. What if you had profit in the earlier years? Just calculate an average and spend 2% of that. And also you need to check, in case the company is having turnover of more than 1000 crores, but you are having net loss, it means the company is not managed properly. You need to check the management also. Okay. Another thing which is worth noting, that my company is only 2 years old. Okay, it was just incorporated. So how will I calculate the average? Average will be calculated of year 1 plus year 2 divided by 2. Okay, so average is to be calculated of the immediately preceding 3 financial years. But I have completed only 2 years of business. Then the average will be calculated considering only those 2 years. So year 1 plus year 2 divided by 2. Okay. There is something known as impact assessment. This is also important. See, you are spending your hard-earned money on these social activities. Don't you think that you should go and verify whether the money that you have spent is actually creating an impact on the society or not? I went for tree plantation. I planted 1000 saplings. That is a popular grazing ground. All the animals come and graze over there. They ate all my saplings. What is the use of that CSR spending? I spent lakhs on rupees on planting those saplings. So in this case, I need to conduct an impact assessment. Now, what is an impact assessment? Is it required to be conducted by all the companies? No. In case your average CSR obligation, now what is average? Average will be calculated of last 3 preceding financial years. So immediately preceding 3 financial years. If your average CSR obligation is more than or equal to 10 crore rupees, okay, if it is more than or equal to 10 crore rupees, then you need to conduct an impact assessment. This impact assessment will be required to be done by an independent agency. Do I need to do it for all the projects? No, no. It is required only for projects with an outlay of more than 1 crore rupees. So if the spending on that project, let's say that I have 5 projects. On this, I have spent 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 3 crore, 25 lakhs, and 2.5 crores. Okay. I need to get the impact assessment done only for these projects. Okay, so if my average CSR obligation of the last 3 financial years is more than 10 crore rupees, I am eligible, or I have to get an impact assessment done. But impact assessment will be only for projects which have an outlay of more than 1 crore rupees. See, you are getting it done through an independent agency. They will obviously charge money for that. So you will have to incur certain expenditure. Nobody is going to do this activity for free. So what will happen is that I will have to incur certain expenditure on that. There is a cap on this expenditure. The expenditure should be less than 2% of the total CSR obligation, or you can say expenditure, or rupees 50 lakhs. There was an amendment here, whichever is higher. Now let's say, for example, that 2% of my CSR expenditure comes to 1 crore rupees. Compare it with 50 lakhs, whichever is higher. My expenditure should be less than 1 crore rupees. What if 2% comes to 40 lakh rupees? Compare it with 50 lakhs, whichever is higher. My spending should be less than 50 lakh rupees. Okay, so the expenditure that you are spending on conducting the impact assessment, now this expenditure, if it is within the limits, that will be considered as if money is spent on CSR. That will also form part of my CSR obligation. Now in this case, what will I do? The impact assessment, I will prepare a report. Okay, I will prepare a report on the impact assessment. This report will be sent to the board of directors. Okay, so the report will be sent to the board of directors, and the board of directors will annex that report to your annual report on CSR. Report shall be annexed to the annual report on CSR. All right, so this is something about impact assessment. Okay, now I think it is time that we go through the main notes also, so that we know what is to be written in the exam. If a question is asked on CSR, I don't think they will ask you a question explaining all the concepts of CSR, but you will start by first explaining what is CSR. We have discussed that CSR activities are specified in Schedule 7, and you can also have the board of directors approve a CSR policy. See, this is Schedule 7. Okay. So what are the activities included here? Eradicating hunger, poverty, malnutrition, promoting education, gender equality, women empowerment. So these are various activities. The fund which I had mentioned is mentioned here, the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund or the Prime Minister Cares Funds. So this is the fund in which you can transfer the unspent CSR amount. What is the applicability? It is applicable in these cases. We have already covered these points. Net worth, turnover, what is net worth, how is profit calculated, what is not included in profit. Okay, now if you are covered under CSR, you will have to file a form CSR2 with the ROC as an addendum, as an addition, as an attachment, as an additional attachment. Or you can say we will have to file it in addition to AOC4. Now AOC4 is to be filed by companies. Companies will file AOC4 with ROC when they file their financial statements. So along with AOC4, they will also file CSR2. CSR committee, we have already discussed that if you are covered under CSR, then you also need to formulate a CSR committee. Now, what will be the composition of the CSR committee? It will consist of 3 or more directors, out of which one has to be an independent director. If you are not required to appoint independent director, then 2 directors. I'm a private company having only 2 directors, then only 2 directors will form part of CSR committee. What is their work? The CSR committee will formulate and recommend to the board. These are my keywords. They will formulate and recommend to the board the CSR policy, and not only the policy, but what are the areas of spending, how much is to be spent on those activities. They will also ensure there is a transparent monitoring mechanism. They will recommend the amount, etc. If my CSR spending does not exceed 50 lakhs, then I need not constitute a CSR committee. And if the committee is not constituted, the functions will be discharged by the board. Every year, I need to spend at least 2% of the average net profit of the made immediately preceding financial years. And if the company has not completed 3 financial years, then they will calculate the average of the number of years that they are in operations. What if there is excess spending? We spend amount in excess of our requirement, then in that case, I will be allowed to set it off. I'll highlight that also. You can set it off against the amount to be spent up to 3 immediately succeeding financial years. What if there is short spending? Then that amount will be transferred to a fund. I also highlighted which fund. To a fund in Schedule 7 within a period of 6 months from the end of the financial year. You will give importance to the local area and areas where you operate. The CSR which are undertaking in the normal course of business, this will not be considered as CSR. The only exception is that if you are engaged in research, development, new vaccines, and you develop COVID vaccines in collaboration with the institutes mentioned in Schedule 7, then that will be considered as eligible CSR spending. The spending of money on any COVID facility providing oxygen, concentrators, ventilators, cylinders, that will be considered as eligible CSR activity. Money spent on Har Ghar Tiranga. Now, I am a company. I was engaged in mass scale production and supply of national flag. I convinced people to participate in Har Ghar Tiranga. Then the money which I have spent is considered as eligible CSR activity. Money has to be spent in India only. The only exception will be in training of the Indian sports personnel, but only representing state, union at the national level or India at the international level. The money spent outside India otherwise will not be considered as CSR spending. The money which I have spent, this is important, only for employees and their families, that is not CSR. But if in those activities outsiders can also participate, then that will be considered as CSR. Any amount given to political party, that is not CSR activity. Amount spent on sponsorship basis or fulfilling my statutory obligation, that will not be considered as CSR activity. Okay. In case of ongoing project, now let us discuss something about ongoing project. Let's say, for example, that I have to construct a school and it is going to be, I'm estimating that 5 crores will be required, but I will not spend the money in one shot. Okay, I will spread it because school takes time to construct. What is an ongoing project, by the way? The ongoing project is a project which is to be completed in maximum 3 financial years, excluding the financial year in which the company is, in which the activity was commenced. So let's say, for example, that the activity was started in the year 2019-20. Now this year will be excluded and your ongoing project has to be completed in the next 3 financial year. Why is there a limit on that? If there is no limit, people will claim that I am spending the money on ongoing project for 10 years, but we have never seen the project completed. If there is no limit that you have to spend in 3 years time, people will go on spending money on that. Actually, they are not doing anything. They just constructed a wall this year and we spend 1 crore rupees on constructing that wall. This is CSR. It's an ongoing project. So if there is no timeline, if there is no maximum time set, people will continue that project for years together and never complete it. Then what is the use of CSR? You're just showing that you're spending. Actually, there is no spending. So you have to complete that within 3 years. Acha, I started a project, but I did not expect that to go beyond 1 year. But it went beyond 1 year, then that also qualifies as an ongoing project. So in the year 1, let's say my obligation was 1.5 crores, but I actually spent only 1 crore rupees. The amount that I did not spend, ideally we had studied that this should be transferred to a fund under the Schedule 7. But because this is an ongoing activity, this amount will be carried forward next year. Now next year I was to spend 2.5 crore, but I actually spent 3 crores. So 2.5 I spent, which was my current year's obligation, and 50 lakhs I spent, which was for year 1. So there is no contravention. In year 3 I was to spend 1 crore rupees, but I actually ended up spending only 50 lakh rupees because the project is over. I maybe this 5 crores was just an estimate, right? So I did not estimate that correctly. This 50 lakhs which I have not spent, now this project is over. 3 years are over. So I will transfer that to a fund within 30 days from the end of the financial year. This 50 lakhs also, which I did not spend because it was an ongoing project, I need not transfer it to the fund in Schedule 7. I will transfer it to the unspent CSR account within 30 days from the end of the financial year. This unspent CSR account will be opened with a scheduled bank. But in the last year, I will transfer it not to this CSR account, but to the fund under Schedule 7, because this is the last year. In both these conditions, the money is to be transferred within 30 days. Over there, if it was not an ongoing project, the amount was to be transferred within 6 months from the end of the financial year. But here it is 30 days from the end of the financial year. That is something which you need to take care of. So this is an ongoing project. Okay. CSR implementation will be done. Either you company do it on your own, or you have your own Section 8 company, like Reliance has Reliance Foundation, Tata has Tata Foundation. So do it with a Section 8 company. There was an amendment in this. Please go and watch my amendment video for that. Or any society exempted under, now these are charitable institutions which are either exempted under Section 12A or 80G of the Income Tax Act. This may be established singly or with another company under state government or central government act of parliament, and they should have an established track record of 3 years in undertaking the activity. Now, I cannot just give money to any Section 8 company. These Section 8 companies or the trust, they have to be registered. They have to apply in CSR1. They have to electronically register themselves with the ROC. This form will be electronically signed and verified by chartered accountant, cost accountant, or company secretary. When you submit this CSR form, you will get a unique CSR registration number. Only the companies at Section 8 company or a trust which have that CSR registration number can engage in CSR activities for companies. I can also take the help of international organizations, like I want to construct a modern, maybe an auditorium or a training ground. I call people from foreign country, I take their advice, they help me in designing. That is CSR activity. You may also collaborate with other companies. Now, let's say that company A wants to spend 1 crore rupees. Company B wants to spend 2 crore rupees. Now, the project requirement is 3 crore rupees. Now, they don't want to spend more and they have no money. They have only 1 crore rupees. So why not collaborate? So they will be able to spend 3 crore rupees on a project which justifies the spending. But you can, collaborate with 2 companies and you can spend. But you should be able to know that what amount was spent on that program. How much was your money which was spent. You should be in a position to report separately as to my CSR obligation was 1 crore. In that pool of spending, I have spent 1 crore. You should be in a position to bifurcate how much was your spending. CSR overheads can be asked as an MCQ. So the administrative overheads shall not exceed 5% of the CSR expenditure for that financial year. Now, what is this CSR overhead? See, when you are engaging in CSR activity, you need a team. You need team to find where the spending is to be done, how much it is to be done. You need to maintain documents. You need to employ people. So everything costs money, no? So the expenditure should not exceed 5% of the total CSR expenditure. Now, I have generated some surplus from the CSR activities. I have organized, let's say I had organized a small trade fair or something. And in that I ended up, although my aim was not to earn profit, I ended up earning some surplus. There are 3 options available over here. The first option is that you can transfer that money to you can plow it back. You can use it in the same project itself. This is the first option. Okay. Option 1. Plow it back in the same project, but that project is over now. All right. Then in that case, you can transfer it to the unspent CSR account and then spend it in accordance with the CSR activity. No, that is not possible because I don't think I'm going to continue. The third option is that you can transfer it to a fund, which is transfer such fund to a fund created in Schedule 7 within a period of 6 months from the end of the financial year. So I have 3 options and I can utilize any of these 3 options. Either plow it back, the surplus is, you can't distribute it, you cannot consider it as business profit. It has to be plowed back, it has to be given back in that project itself. Or you can transfer it to the unspent CSR account or transfer it to a fund which is created under Schedule 7. Contents of CSR policy display on the website. This you can read it on your own. Impact assessment we have already covered. One-off events like you spent money on charitable contribution, awards, advertisement, sponsorship. That is just a one-time event that will not be considered as CSR. You need to engage in some project or some proper program mode. Okay. There is certain penalty in case you do not comply with the requirements of CSR. So the company as well as the officer in default will be subject to certain penalties. So students, this was a very quick revision of the entire concept of CSR, and I hope you now have a lot of clarity, concept clarity, and you will be able to solve any question that is asked in the exam. For these question answers discussion, the detail, now these are just hints, but detailed question answers are discussed in my CA Law compiler. Link is in the description box. This book also can be purchased from my website capreetyagarwal.com. We have lectures, books, podcast for law. So do check my website capreetyagarwal.com for books, lectures, test series and podcast.